Tennessee just sounds perfect. Whether that's live music, the crack of a campfire, or kids laughing on an adventure. To start planning your trip, visit tnvacation.com. Tennessee sounds perfect.
Are you ready to unleash superior seating performance on your operation? Choose from 2 revolutionary Great Plains drills. The BD 7600 Min-Till drill, renowned for its seating consistency, large capacity, and innovative technology, including drill command. And the new BD 7410 drill, whose transport width under 10 feet delivers great maneuverability through gates and down narrow roadways. Each model is engineered for the proven performance you've come to expect from Great Plains.
Everybody, welcome back to the Beyond the Peloton podcast. I'm Spencer Martin, author of the Beyond the Peloton newsletter. I'm here with Andrew Vance, my co-host, BetterLab.io, CEO, founder, host of the Choose the Hard Way podcast. We have our special guest Scott McGill from Project Echelon Racing back on. Scott, the last time we talked to you, you were on Wildlife Generation. We had just watched you at the World Championships in Australia on rim brakes. In 2022, which is incredible, in the breakaway with Matthew Vanderpool. And you then joined Human Powered Health, which is, Rally United Healthcare. That team goes under end of 2023. Now you're on a new team. Give us the quick update. What's going on? What's the schedule?
Yeah, so I guess in 2023, when I joined Human Powered Health, I started the year with a knee injury, so that didn't go so well to start. And then as soon as my knee got better, I trained for 1 week, and then I got hit by a car, and then got a couple more injuries, and then I started racing last year. I think at the end of May was my first race. And then raced through the summer, then found out the team was folding, which I had a 2-year contract. So, I wasn't like looking for other teams or on the market or anything like that. And then, raced through the fall, and now I race for Project Echelon Racing, which is a organization that supports veterans. So we try to promote veterans, picking up cycling after their service as a way to kind of stay healthy and pick up a new hobby. And so it's, a team with a mission also.
I mean, you had some results last year. That's the crazy thing. A lot of people, like what you just described, is like some people's careers might end, picked up and got on a new team, injury, hit by a car. But you got 7th at the Maryland Cycling Classic, which is like seriously good riders. You were the first non-European based team finisher. So major result. And then you've been bouncing around between your Echelon team. You guys you were at the Trofeo series in Mallorca, but do you also do the big races in the US? Can you just give us a quick overview of, what the switch between that is like?
Yeah, I mean, with the racing scene in the US being, the way it is, where there's not so many stage races, there's still quite a few like crits, but we're not really a crit focused team. So we, this year especially made the switch to do a good number of races in Europe. So I think I've done 2 trips so far. We did the first block, we did Mallorca, Valenciana, and Tour de la Provence, and then this next block, we did a couple of 0.2 level races, so like more continental level races. We did in Greece and then Volta Alentejo in Portugal. And then, we still, want to support the American scene, so we did Redlands and Tour of the Gila also so far.
And we would be remiss if we didn't mention your team director on Project Echelon, an absolute legend, Gord Fraser.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know which director you were talking about, but Gord's definitely a legend, that's for sure. He's been around a while. So, it's been good having him on, as an experienced director. Speaks fluent French, that comes in handy because, in France, no one speaks any other language but French. But it's been great working with Gord so far this year.
I mean, the man speaks the language of legends as well. I mean, I used to hear stories about Gord in the late 90s and early 2000s that they've stuck with me to this day. So, what is it like to ride for this man?
Yeah, I mean, we've gotten along great so far. He's got a lot of, he's a really good like tactician when it comes to the races. Obviously a director has, a lot of hats to wear. But yeah, as far as like, figuring out a plan for the race, that's definitely his strong suit.
But I mean, Tour de la Provence, that was a big race. Like I remember watching that vividly, and you guys had some really good results, like top 10 results against, Mads Pedersen was maybe on the best form he'll be on all year at that thing. And you guys were hanging in there. Like these are not, as the Europeans say, it's not like a Pannekuchen field. This was a serious field.
Yeah. Yeah. Tyler had some good rides at Provence. I think he was fourth on a stage, which is, that's phenomenal. And especially, the weather conditions were not favorable. So we had to, really suffer there. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we saw you pulled a win at the Tour of Rhodes as well. Correct?
Yeah. Yeah. Tyler also won. There was a one day we did in Rhodes. So Tyler won that. And then I was able to win the first stage, of like the stage race. So that, to get two wins in Europe for a smaller team is, definitely not easy. So it's been a pretty good start to the year.
Yeah, part of what's wild and what's awesome about having you on here, Scott, and there are a lot of things that are awesome about having you on, but just this contrast you've had already in your season of going back and forth between popping over to Europe, coming back, and candidly, the results that you're getting in the American races, like win at Redlands, win at Tour of the Gila, 15 years ago, that's a world tour contract, right? So,
I mean, I don't know, but
well, I was around 15 years ago.
I wasn't around then.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, Spencer, you were as well.
Well, yeah, like Patrick Bevan. Bevan? And I'm not, is his name plural or singular? But he had a good Redlands, and then he basically got to the World Tour on that, and he's still there, I believe. So that did used to be the path.
Yeah, I hope that's still the path. So maybe I can return. But I mean, I think our trips to Europe early in the season paid off as when it came to the American races like Redlands. We won 4 out of 5 stages and the GC, and then Gila we won 3 out of 5 stages and the GC. So I would call that a domination of the American. Stages, the 2 American stages we had.
Yeah, I would say that it's a domination. And what is your feeling about the level of competition right now in United States road racing? Because of course, the number of races are contracting. Everything swung wildly in the crit and gravel direction. And at the same time, the level of talent, people's knowledge of training, nutrition, recovery, it's higher than it's ever been before. So are we seeing an incredibly high level of competition in the United States still, or is it contracting as the opportunities to race are less?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this, that 10 or 15 years ago, there used to be maybe 10 continental teams in the US. So there was a good kind of domestic scene where guys were racing each other, week in, week out. But I don't know if the level of actual talent, we have the same amount of talent pool in the scene today. It's just that the level of support and the level of, the amount of teams there are, opportunities to join these like continental teams where you can earn a little money and have, decent equipment and stuff like that, are less, but I believe the same talent pool still exists competing in the races, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you used to have guys like, like Chris Weary, like all these people lived in Boulder, like the Toyota United team, had people who made livings racing just in the US pretty much. That is gone essentially. I mean, can you talk about the level of support? Like you were on Human Powered Health last year, pretty big team, 2nd division team. Now you're on a 3rd division team, which that type of team used to actually have you might get paid a little bit of money and everything taken care of. Can you give us a little bit of like a peek behind the curtain? Like, what's the level of support and what's the level of financial compensation? Like, does it allow you not to have another job?
Yeah, I mean, so we're kind of in that gray area where it's the same amount of time sacrifice and travel commitments and time away from home as, say, like a pro team or a world tour team, but there's no, financial, compensation, or little, or if any. So I think, with Project Echelon, we do the best we can with the amount of resources that we have. So that usually, means like there's, the riders have to take some responsibility when it comes to logistics and stuff like that. You don't, it's not as bougie as a pro team or a world tour team, but they definitely take care of us pretty well. Like we, when you go to a race, you don't have to bring your wallet with you to a race. Everything's taken care of. Good equipment, good staff. Usually, we usually have like enough staff at every race to take care of the bikes and have some soigneurs and stuff like that. So we're doing the best I think possible with the amount of resources that we have, which is kind of all you can ask for.
I mean, have to ask at this point, because we know, Scott, you were involved in some of the same inner circles as some of the biggest YouTube gravel stallions, is maybe how I would put it. Sure. Without getting into those riders specifically, what's your sense of the economics of that side of the sport? Is it the same deal, or a lot of these people just kind of bubblegum, scotch tape, a wing and a prayer, a couple of sponsor checks, or are people making any like actual real money out there racing gravel? Is this just like a lifestyle thing?
I mean, I don't have access to everyone's bank account, but I would assume that they're able to make a living. I'm guessing a lot of that is, with a team like Project Echelon, if you get paid or if you don't get paid, it's like you don't have any expenses also. So I don't know if these gravel guys are doing a lot of the logistics and stuff like that on their own, and buying their own flights, and so I'm sure you could save money by maybe driving to races or not hiring a mechanic or something like that. So it's kind of more in your control. You're kind of like owning your own business than, say, on a team where it's kind of like, you just get sent a flight, you go to the airport, you get on the plane, and you go to the race.
An independent trucker. So
sure.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at what's happening in the gravel scene, why do your aspirations, why are they still pointed towards going to Europe, the big show? Is that where you want to be? You want to be in the world tour? Are you tempted at all to be out there at Laguna Seca with 250 people with mustaches trying to make that first corner?
I mean, gravel just doesn't seem as appealing to me as, like, I'm not interested in it, So I could also do like another job that I could probably make more money that I also don't like. That's not
the best take on gravel I've ever heard.
Like I could get some, sales job or something that I hate, or I could go do 200 miles of gravel in Kansas, which doesn't sound that fun either.
Yeah,
this is such a good take, because it looks miserable. Actually, Joe Dombrowski said the same thing recently, where he's like, it just doesn't really appeal to me, so why would I do that? Like, I want to race on the road. Yeah,
like, just because you're making money or have a career or whatever you want to call it cycling doesn't mean that's fun or enjoyable or what you want to do. So maybe I'll do it in the future. I don't know. I might do a few gravel races this year with Echelon. Like, we want to do a few gravel races as a team, but I'm not going to be a full on gravel guy. It just doesn't interest me as much or motivate me, I guess.
Yeah, still sticking with the stubble, not going for the mustache yet. We get it. Well, we've got McGill raw and uncut. Let's get down with bike size. So we know that you size down. And
Andrew, before you do this, I'm sorry, Scott, that you have to be here for this. We're going to have to commit seppuku live on the show, because I don't think I've ever received as much feedback as I've received in the past 2 weeks from Andrew and I stupidly thinking that a Colnago 48 centimeter bicycle was a 48 centimeter bicycle. Apparently, so Tadej Pogacar rides a 48. Apparently, that is about equal to a 51 or 52. So apologies for, I would say that's still quite small for a man that is just under 6 feet tall. So I want to apologize for putting that misinformation out there. We do not know the Colnago bike chart sizes by memory. I don't know why they would size it that way instead of just saying extra small, small, medium, large. But yeah, just wanted to clear that up before we get into this.
All right, I've pulled up the Colnago size chart. Okay, so maybe I'm not going to put this on Spencer. Maybe I misspoke, not going and doing my due diligence and taking a deep dive into the Colnago size chart.
You're an idiot for thinking a 48 centimeter bike is a 48 centimeter bike. Honestly, I had no idea. You said, hundreds of people reaching out. I didn't know there were hundreds of people in America on Colnagos in 2024. That was my thought. I was like, who is on these bikes?
Yeah. So I'm looking at their size chart. It's incredibly simple. It goes from double extra small and it goes from 42 through 58. They do have a lot of different sizes, and their recommendation for their 48, which they say fits like a 51 to 52 in other brands, is for a human that's around 5'7", and Tadej is 5'9", so maybe not quite as tiny as we thought, but we are talking to
that might be a fake 5'9", by the way. I'm testing this in person soon.
Yeah,
I think he's like 5'10", maybe 5'11".
Well, Spencer has a dinner date that he hasn't mentioned, I guess.
Let me walking back. Let me just stand back to back with you, sir. All right, start your time trial.
All right. Well, we've got a pro here who's a Tour of the Gila stage winner. Has pulled in some major sprint victories in Europe, and you're a man who sizes down. So give it to us straight. Talk to us about small bikes and long reach.
I don't know. I've never really thought about it like that. I guess I think I'm a small or like a 51 or 52.
And what bike brand are you on?
Argon 18.
Okay.
Yeah,
Argon
we don't
18.
want to. Yeah, we don't want to besmirch them without going into the size chart. And how tall are you, Scott?
5'10".
Ooh. Okay.
And I think I have a 130 mil stem.
Okay. Well, this is reasonable. That's about. I'm on a 120. I could probably stretch out to a 130 if I was racing. I would say that's like a respectable size bike. Do you see guys like when you're at Redlands and Gila? Like, are there people on 170s, 190?
There's probably a few guys on 170s ish. I've never heard of a 200, but yeah, like 130, 140 is pretty common.
Do you think having a smaller bike gives you an advantage? Like if the team, for whatever reason, it's like, oh, sorry, Scott, your bike broke. You have to be on a medium. Like, would you even notice a difference? You just have a shorter stem and it would be exactly the same.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, what I would notice a difference is like in the head tube stack.
Yeah.
But as far as like the reach and it probably wouldn't make a difference. So you might as well go a size smaller. Because then it's, obviously lighter and yeah.
Well, okay, so let's talk about that for a minute because I've seen, I guess these are gravel, I'll call them gravel pros, but they're gravel pros who have road sponsors. I'll just go ahead. I'm going to name names. So Kerry Werner posted his NV Melee, and they're not talking about Medieval Battle. I believe that's the name of their new road bike. He posted a photo of his MV Melee built up with Di2 MV wheels. So this is that's like a $15,000 bike. And I'm guessing Kerry's on probably a 56 and 17.2 pounds, which, that's like more than 2 pounds over the UCI weight limit. I'm guessing that a lot of these World Tour riders, if they're going to be sponsored correct, they're stuck on bikes that are 2+ pounds heavier than the UCI weight limit. So maybe that's part of why they're sizing down.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, with tubeless tires, I think they're heavier. And then obviously all the, aerodynamic advantages you can put on a bike. The weight limit, bikes are not as close to the weight limit anymore. I don't know. I don't weigh everybody's bike, but that's what my guess is.
I mean, you start stuffing pool noodles and Nickelodeon slime in your tires and things are getting a little bit heavy, right?
Exactly.
I will say I recently built up a new road bike and I was shocked at how much beefier it was than my even like 2019 road bike. Well, wherever, like, think of the through axles, they were so fine and thin. And now you just have these big through axles that coming through, and like everything feels kind of beefier. It's almost like road bikes are turning into gravel bikes to an extent. So I'm sure that adds weight.
Yeah, I mean, I'd
And
rather
you
have
have
a.
hydraulic fluid on your bike.
That is true. Yeah, with disc brakes, but I'd rather have a bike that's 1 or 2 pounds heavy. That's
I know. Yeah.
maybe 10 times stronger or something like that.
Not going to fall apart.
I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah.
Remember the Cannondale, like Cannondale was adding weights to their bikes in like 2014, 15, maybe earlier than that even, to make the weight limit because those bikes were so light. Hey everybody, it's Spencer. I just want to take a moment to talk about a new partner to the show and newsletter that I'm really excited about, and that's Tour Tracker. You can find them at the website, thetourtracker.com. But what's really good is their app. If you get that Tour Tracker app, there's a lot in there that will help you follow the races incredibly closely, which is important for me because I'm in the US at the moment. So when I don't wake up at 4 a.m. to watch the start of the stage. So I kind of jump in around 6 a.m. And the Tour Tracker app will have exactly what's going on whenever you pop in. And it also has a time machine, so you can go back in time and see what you missed. It also has super detailed previews of each stage, including interactive profiles and maps, gradients, and detailed gradients of every climb, a live race coverage, including GPS tracking on the maps and profiles, so you can tell where each rider is, what group they're in. A lot of times these groups are breaking up and you're like, what the heck's going on? Who is where? Well, the GPS tracking on the live race coverage will solve a lot of that confusion for you, and you can see where everyone is on the road, what group they're in, how far apart each group is. It's incredibly helpful. They also have a fantasy cycling game built in, so you can play fantasy cycling against everyone in the app. It's really fun to do. I highly recommend it. And this is hugely important, a complete set of non-spoiler race notifications before, during, and after each day. I know a lot of people have jobs and they can't just sit around and follow cycling as it happens, especially here in North America during the workday. So being able to go into the app and know that the race isn't going to be spoiled for you, and then follow along as though you're watching live as you watch the replay, is incredibly, incredibly important. But the thing I like the most about this is it has a great map feature. You just click that map tab and it gives you a detailed map of every stage. And to me, it's really important because a lot of times you're watching these races, you look at the profile, it doesn't do a great job of telling you, where is this going on? What part of the world are we in? Where are we going to and from? And if you're at the race, it lets you see where the group is at all times. So if you're, especially at a circuit course or one of these mountain stages where they crisscross around the same area, and you can catch a lot of the race live if you have this map feature that tells you exactly where the peloton is and where it will be in the future. So check out Tour Tracker. I've been loving it. If you can't wake up for the start of every stage and you can't just sit there and closely watch for 4 or 5 hours every day, this is going to be a key piece of how you watch races from now on. But Scott, now that we have you here, we will not completely ignore the Giro d'Italia. I'm going deep in this thing every day. So if you read my newsletter, you probably don't need to listen to me break this down in detail, and I'll be sending out a rest day newsletter later today. But the broad strokes are Tadej Pogacar looks awesome, like really good. Italy looks great, beautiful, great weather, which I do think is key, because if this was bad weather every day, I think that would be the thing that would hurt him for the Tour de France. If he's just slogging through like 45, 40 degrees rain every day, that's going to take it out of him. And the sprints have been super competitive. And as a sprintman yourself, I'm glad we have you here to talk to you. Have you seen any of these sprints? And I'm curious to get your take on, like, Caden Groves is having his Alpecin Deceuninck team go all in for his sprint goals, but they have guys on the team that probably could get into some of these late breakaways and contest the wins from there. That would be probably the logical thing to do. But I'm curious, from your mind, as a sprinter yourself, would you be like so offended that the team was doing that it would actually hurt your sprint performance?
I mean, if I was directing the team, I would just look at what's the best possible chance at winning a stage. Is it out of a breakaway, or is it in a sprint with Caden Groves? And if they think that the best possible chance is to win in a sprint, then it's better just to go all in for one rider than say put a couple guys in the break, then you have, less guys for a lead out, and then you're kind of just spreading your whole team thin, where it's better just to go, all in for one guy.
So I guess related to that, what do you think when you see Ineos, which have such a bizarre composition at this race, 2, 3, 4 in the time trial? We've seen Ghana, who we don't know what's going on. We feel like we're moving towards this GC Ghana era. Might be about to happen, but we've got Geraint Thomas, the old man who just will never say die, just getting smoked in that time trial. And then we got Ghana going off the front, getting in the break, but not winning, still kind of always trying to position for that sprint win. What do you see going on within that team?
Well, I think they're in a little bit of a different place because they don't have a sprinter where you need or a pure sprinter where you need a whole team to win the sprint. Where, they want to keep Geraint Thomas safe for the GC. So in the sprint finishes, you want to, dedicate a couple guys to positioning him, but then it kind of leaves the other guys, they can kind of take their own chance in those late attacks. Like we saw Navarez, I believe that was on Sunday. He got caught with 25 meters to go. So that was a great, chance to win a stage, but he didn't really need a whole team to play that card. So they're kind of in a different situation than maybe a sprint team is, where you want to dedicate, if you have 8 riders, you want 7 guys working for that one sprinter.
What do you make of, I love that move, by the way. I love Navarez as a rider.
Yeah.
What do you think of Tadej? He probably wins that stage if Tadej Pogačar doesn't do that massive lead out pull. What was that? I don't think I've ever seen that. I was thinking about it. We've seen GC leaders lead out sprinters on the final day. I don't think I've ever seen a GC leader leading out a sprinter in the middle of the race.
Yeah, I heard people saying that it might be, too dangerous, or he's burning his matches too much, but it's not. I don't see it being that much harder to do, one lead out. He's only on the front for 20 or 30 seconds versus just staying in position in the front and finishing in the front of the bunch like a normal GC rider would. And then it's also the whole field's dangerous. So it doesn't seem like it'd be that much more dangerous to be able to do the lead out. And then he's kind of repaying the favor for the rest of his team. And still being a team player, which will help, it might help motivate, say, Milano to do something later in the race that maybe he would have been, thinking he doesn't get his chance. So, why is he going to?
Something amazing is happening in meteorology. Climate researchers are successfully processing a data storm. That's because CDW transformed their laptop devices and infrastructure to pre-configured Lenovo ThinkPads and powerful edge-to-cloud solutions. By delivering faster insights to run more accurate forecast models, it's almost like they're controlling the weather themselves. Lenovo and CDW. Make amazing happen. Find out more at cdw.com/Lenovo Client.
Work his ass off for this guy who seems to win so easily. But so I don't see a problem with it, and I don't think it's that much more dangerous than just riding in the bunch, because you see crashes at all sides of the bunch of the peloton, like front, back, middle, back. So you could crash anywhere. Honestly, the safest place is on the front, because if you crash, it's your own fault.
You just ride first wheel for 3 weeks. Tad.
Yeah,
what's the big deal?
He's
but
probably
as you
strong
say,
enough.
Geraint Thomas crashed middle of the field yesterday. Had to chase back on. Probably used more energy than Tadej did leading out.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're in the front and you crash, then more people will run over you as well, which is kind of an added bonus. I don't know if you guys
might take your GC contenders down with you.
Yeah.
See it from all sides.
Yeah. Somebody had a super high-speed camera on the finish the other day, and they posted it on Instagram. So it's super slow-mo of a wreck. So you actually get to see how hard everyone's head hits the ground when they're going 45 miles an hour and they come to a dead stop and get catapulted face first into the ground in a sprint. It is a gnarly situation. And then because they're so far forward, many of them get run over multiple times. And then you see other people tomahawking into the ground. Just to shift gears slightly, Scott, another thing I'd love to get your take on. I was watching another dominant performance by Pog the other day. And Micah, God, the guy looks so good. He is just nails. And the thought that I had, I mean, first of all, I thought about Micah versus Sepp Kuss cage match. Who's going to win? Maybe we don't need to get into that. But I also thought, you take Micah out of this situation, what happens to Pog at the Tour? I'm not saying he's going to go down, but I mean, that just seems like a pretty critical member of the team. If we end up taking him out of the mix, is Pog still invincible, or do we have a problem?
I mean, I'm sure they have, their Tour de France team seems pretty strong as well. So, maybe he's key to his performance, but I think he'll be all right. I just have a feeling.
Is he confirmed not going to the Tour? I feel like those guys are almost like attached to the hip.
Yeah, Micah's got it. This is like crisscross. They want to make you jump, and they only can do it together.
That is, I mean, now that we're on the Micah thread, it is kind of amazing. Scott probably doesn't remember this. I'm old enough to remember when he was a GC contender himself, and then he just kind of made this. It's like an incredibly shrewd move. You just turn yourself into an indispensable last man. So yeah, I'm looking at the Tour team, Andrew. No Micah, but they do have Adam Yates, who, as we saw last year, is really good and kind of looks like Scott's cousin or something, like maybe brother. You should be the third Yates twin, Scott.
Just way less talented.
Oh, I don't know about that, but that's my next question. Like when you're watching these sprints of the Giro, like, are you thinking, and you must be because you're a competitor, what are you thinking? Like, man, if like I just got the call up, like I'd be mixing it up at these things.
I mean,
Move
sure,
Sanchez.
that probably crosses my mind, but then I go to a race in Europe that's not even, a World Tour race or anything and get my ass kicked. So it's, you got to be realistic also.
All right. Well, I think this is the point of the conversation. We talked about it a bit before we went live here. Just like there's a lot of big talk out on the bus stop ride, see me ride in SoCal. People are like, you know what? I could probably win a Tour stage. So can you give us just like a little more insight about these levels in the sport and the difference even between, like a UCI Cat 2 race, a Cat 1, and like what it takes to actually be there and win?
Yeah, I mean, especially when you see some of the sprint powers that are posted on the internet and think, oh, well, I could do that, in my driveway. Like, I could probably win a stage of the Tour, but the 5-minute power that it takes to even get to the sprint, to get to 200 meters to go, to even do a sprint is so high that the level, like any of the sprinters are phenomenal climbers, or, fantastic, other types of riders. They just happen to be able to do a good sprint after, racing for 3 to 5 hours. So yeah, it's not even just like 90% of sprinting is getting to be able to do your sprint in a good position. So there's a lot more to it than what you see on TV, for sure.
I mean, on that point, I think people really underestimate that. And even just how small some of these sprinters are, like just like really thinned out people. Because if you look at the VAM numbers required, like let's just say the Tourmalet stage at the Tour last year, the back of the back group is doing the Tourmalet in like 1300 VAM. And like to put that into perspective, and I know people push back on me about this because like Boulder is at altitude, but if you go to like Sunshine, which is one of the biggest climbs in Boulder, the Strava KOM is about 1300 VAM. So that means, at least in theory, like some of these sprinters could be taking like some of the hardest climbing KOMs in the US, which is really astonishing to think about.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, to finish a Grand Tour, you have to be a fantastic overall rider, not just be able to sprint at the end. You got to they still have to complete the mountain stages to get to the sprint stages.
And like I think people underestimate too, like 25 minutes. That's actually not a lot of time to finish behind the stage winner.
Yeah. Yeah. I've spent, a good amount of time in a gruppetto, and it's not as easy. And also when you're not racing at the front, it's a lot harder to push yourself or suffer when you're suffering just to finish, like 25 minutes behind somebody else, which isn't very motivating.
And like you're in the valley. I mean, think how hard the front of the race is going in a mountain valley. And you have to be almost matching that because you're probably going to lose time on the climbs.
Yeah, exactly.
Andrew, you mentioned this. This is kind of, I had kind of glossed over this. So Ineos finishes 2-3-4 in the time trial. I would say that is Dan Bingham's work. I mean, they spent a lot of money and time on their time trialing setup. Magnus Sheffield third. I felt bad I didn't really mention that in the newsletter, and he was in the break the next day. Do you know Magnus, Scott? He's like a young American rider on Ineos, been good for a few years. He was on Rally, but that was before your time, I believe.
Yeah, the only time we did the World Championships together in Australia, so that was the only time I met him. But
you guys pulled that prank on Matthew van der Poel, right?
yeah, it was definitely us.
Yeah, hilarious.
Well, something that I thought was interesting following that stage was that Magnus Sheffield, when he was quoted following the stage, he talked about, this is the next step in my development as the world's best time trialist or something. I just started to think about like, no, don't move in that direction. Let's you develop into something somewhere else in the sport, because I don't know where you go if that's like your end point. Like what do we see? We see riders become highly specialized in time trial, and then they curve back around, and then they start going for, your GC Ghana, you're a breakaway specialist, you're Ghana trying to be a sprinter now. So is that the appropriate next step in his development, given, Scott, you would know better than any of us how much time you have to put into being comfortable on that TT bike and the skis, perfecting your position, being in the wind tunnel. Can you talk about that a bit?
I mean, I definitely don't know that because I've never been comfortable on a time trial bike. That's for sure. But yeah, I mean, I've kind of done the opposite where I've put no time into time trialing because I'm never going to be a good time trialist. So I'm not going to waste my time practicing, or, you know what I mean? So maybe Magnus is doing the opposite where he's like, well, if my best thing's time trialing, I'm just going to focus, 100% on that. Which kind of in this sport, if the most specialized riders tend to have the most success rather than trying to be, a jack of all trades, but a master of none.
Well, that's kind of the Ineos house motto. Even with GC, it's like, we're going to finish 3 through 10, try to stop us, but we will never win a Grand Tour. Like, because Magnus, I see it, like super talented, gets 6th at Tour of Flanders. If I was advising him, I'd say maybe you focus on that. That seems like a good thing to focus on, not on, maybe he wants to be a GC rider though, Andrew. And that's what he's talking about with time trialing. I don't think I would recommend.
That's what I was trying to figure out. I mean, again, we're just kind of reading these press pool quotes from these writers that are splattered across different pieces of coverage. So I don't know if it was out of context or not. But when I read that, I did think, does he really mean like I'm going to move in this highly specialized direction? I want to win time trial stages, or is this just like putting the pieces together to then become a Grand Tour contender or something? And if that were the case, what do you think about that trajectory for him, Spencer?
He's listed at 73 kilos. I would say if you have the option to do anything but be a Grand Tour contender, do that. Maybe. Doesn't it seem like Matthew van der Poel's have more fun than someone starving themselves to be a Grand Tour contender? I would just say those one days are. So if you have the talent to do that, I would probably do that.
Yeah, I'm going to take us in just a completely different direction for one moment. This weekend I was writing, and I was thinking about Alberto Bettiol winning the Tour of Flanders, and I was just thinking about that moment in the sport, which was kind of a bridge between like quick step domination and the rise of the Galacticos and these like super duper riders, the Van der Poels, the Pogs, Wout. What do you make of that moment in time where Bettiol wins Flanders? I feel like that was like a moment when everything changed in pro cycling.
I think the term interregnum for that type of, in retrospect, you're like, oh, we we were treading water, waiting for the new rain to come, but we didn't know it yet. But it is actually crazy about Bettiol. I mean, Scott, you can speak to this. I'm just looking up right now how many wins he's had. He's won Tour of Flanders, a monument. He has 5 pro wins. Like that is,
they're pretty good ones.
They are all good, and he does look incredible at times. Like remember when he won Milano-Torino this year? The guy looked incredible, but it is shocking like how good you can be and then how little you have to show for that in terms of overall wins. It's almost like golf in that respect. It's like, yeah, I'm like world class. I've won 5 times. Like that is an astonishing thing to look at. Yeah, and he was top 10 at Flanders this year. I mean, obviously I'd kill for his career, but it's not, he did seem to be usurped a little bit by the rush of ultra talented riders. Like, how do you guys speak about this class of riders, Scott, like inside the peloton? Are you just like, oh, they're so good, don't even try to take them on? Or is it like, Vanderpool's just a little lucky? If I had his luck, I would have won Worlds last year. Glasgow.
I mean, yeah. The numbers that some guys are doing are just kind of out of, so far from what I can do. So it's almost just like not even comparable. But yeah, I mean, for sure there's some, the level has just skyrocketed since I've kind of got.
Are you ready to unleash superior seating performance on your operation? Choose from 2 revolutionary Great Plains drills. The BD 7600 Min-Till drill, renowned for its seating consistency, large capacity, and innovative technology, including drill command. And the new BD 7410 drill, whose transport width under 10 feet delivers great maneuverability through gates and down narrow roadways. Each model is engineered for the proven performance you've come to expect from Great Plains.
And into the, racing a bit in Europe and over the last couple of years. So it's, trying to match that is kind of unrealistic. So taking advantage at races that we can, is kind of all we can do.
All right.
I mean, that's how Bettiol's talking probably, that's what's crazy about this level where you have world-class guys. Like think of Mate Mohoric is just like, just got to get lucky. It's like, you're so good though. Or Casper Askren, just like, got to wait for my chance. But also on that point, like I'm looking at the time trial again. Tadej wins, Ghana second. I'm sure Rai TV was just sad on the scene. But Ghana and Pogacar put out the same watts in the final climb. And Pogacar is like 20 kilos lighter. So what's that? That's like close to 40 pounds lighter. And he's putting out the same power as a massive time trial specialist. Like that shows you how hard it is, even for someone like Ghana.
Yeah, for sure. The numbers are insane.
It's absolutely bananas. I mean, while we have you here, Scott, I feel like we would be remiss if we didn't talk about your win at Redlands. And many people who are listening have probably seen the video on YouTube. Could you take us through the final lap in the sprint? Like what went down and how did you pull off that victory?
Yeah, so, I mean, it was in the crit, so it's downtown. And there was, a good amount of crashes, I guess, but there was one big crash and they restarted the race with 10 laps to go. So we just thought the only option was to just take the front from there. And then, we rode the front into the last lap. We have some of the, Sam Boardman, Brendan Rim. I don't know if you know any of these names, but, some of the best, I would say, like domestiques that are in the American peloton for sure. And then all I had to do was sprint. That's pretty much it. But it wasn't, there was in the videos, there's a lot of like argy-bargy and elbows out, but I wouldn't say that a crit in America is that much more dangerous or any like more aggressive than a sprint in Europe. Stuff like that happens in cycling all the time. There's no GoPros allowed in UCI races, so that's why you don't see it.
Sadly, because we would like to see it.
And so your teammate Tyler Stites won Redlands and Gila, correct?
Yep.
The sweep. Like, what is Tyler? Like, do you think Tyler's, is his goal like the same as yours, like pushing to make it to Europe? Or are we going to see him go the way of, what is this? This Torben Reed, is that his name? The Norwegian who was racing road and then now he's on gravel.
So over there at BWR Kansas with us.
just
Yeah.
crushing people. Scott, you would win BWR Kansas.
You can talk
Like,
to
you
your
gotta-
friend Drew Dillman about it, who was out there last year.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you will not see Tyler doing gravel. That's for sure. He's not into it.
Interesting. So, I mean, that's like the frustration of the thing that you started this off with is the rider level has not gone down. The level of support has gone down. So you have someone like Tyler Stites or yourself winning these big races and then just having to hope, like think of like Riley Sheehan last year at the same race as you're at. And then now he's made the jump to light speed on Israel Premier Tech. But if it's like you don't get a seat on that shuttle, it feels like it'd be so frustrating.
Yeah, and like there's less crossover between America and European races. So like, maybe a team manager on a European team won't even consider like the American races real races because they have no idea what the level is. Because there's kind of no like if there was a European team or a pro team or a big team that came over and did Redlands and we beat them, there'd be kind of like a okay, well they're slightly better than this team. But there's no comparables. So it could just be like guys are just assuming that the American peloton is just shit or bad or just not at the same level. But I think, there's still a good amount of talent in the American races. We just kind of have to get over to Europe more to show ourselves.
I mean, how was that at the Trofeo series? Like the Mallorca series, you had good results there and there was really good guys. You'd say some of the best.
Yeah.
Like, did you feel like, oh, I'm level with this? Like I could race at this level full time?
Yeah, I mean, it was the first race of the season, so it's kind of like a lot of the teams already had done a full training camp where like we didn't, I didn't get my race bike till I was there, like the day before the race. So there's kind of like that. That's like, it was a little bit unorganized in that way, but that's just kind of the nature of being on a continental team. Bike suppliers we're not on the top of their priority list. So makes it more difficult to get your equipment early. Like ideally we'd do a training camp in December, get all our equipment, get all our clothes, get all set up. And then when we got to the race in January, it'd be like, you're used to the bike. Have done some training together in groups and like lead out practices, stuff like that, where, I didn't meet some of the guys till I got to the race in Mallorca. So, hopefully next year we can make another step up and do, training camp, either December or January, get bikes dialed in and then have a similar race schedule where we can try to improve on our results we got this year.
Is that the big difference between, last year that was a polished team, Human Powered Health, probably up there, one of the, maybe not the biggest budgeted, but like one of the better run second division teams. Do you think people overrate or underrate like how the little things behind the scenes affect riders' performance on the road?
Yeah, the little details. I think you can still do good results with like the setup we have, but it just makes it so much easier when everything's taken care of for you. You have access to anything you need, like nutritionist, some coach on staff at the team. They have the team bus. Like at Tour de la Provence, we were getting changed like on the underhang, under somebody's porch, trying to stay out of the rain, like before the race. And it's just that you see all these buses and it's, like after the race, just shivering, trying to get changed in the back of a, van that we rented. So stuff like that. It just makes it more comfortable. So it makes it more, I would say, sustainable. Your recovery is better. But it's not, it's not like you have to have a team bus to win races or do good results.
Spencer's probably tired of me asking this question, and maybe it's because I'm working on the Better Lab, which helps you build mindful science-backed practices to sleep better. But are you the kind of person who can you just like be dead asleep with great sleep wherever you are? Like, could you just like sleep on a couch and get 8 hours of great recovery?
Probably not. I mean, I'd love to be able to, but no. And then especially going back and forth to Europe, I want to figure out a way to, as soon as I get on an airplane, fall asleep and then wake up when it's time to get off. Because sitting on these planes has not been my favorite part of being a cyclist. That's for sure.
So you just kind of gut through these travel experiences and do what you can.
Yeah, I'm pretty much. I mean, there's not much. Yeah, you do the best you can. You try to control your diet, hydration, stuff like that. But yeah, at the end of the day, we're usually flying in 2 days before the race in Europe. So
that's not easy. I assume you're not in first class.
Oh, definitely not.
That's hard to do, man. Wow. I mean, usually the rule of thumb is you'd want a day for every time zone that you go through.
Yeah.
So if it's East Coast to Europe, 6 days, maybe you're about, but 2 days. Oh man. Even just like casually riding around, I feel like after 2 days, I'm still fatigued when I get to Europe.
Yeah. It hasn't been the easiest. That's for sure.
I mean, it's just a continuation, I guess, of the team bus conversation. And there's even levels within the top division where like Cofidis just started going to altitude camps because they just didn't do it before. But, like if Wout van Aert comes to race the Quebec races or goes to Worlds, he's flying minimum business class. And then so it's just easier for him to recover, to get used to the new time zones and stuff. And then for everyone else, they're fighting back in economy for like 2-3 hours of sleep on the same flight. It just makes it tougher to compete with them.
Yeah, but you don't want to use that as an excuse, or you just kind of just control what you can control, and it is what it is.
Well, let's get into probably the most controversial topic we possibly could. And I'm, of course, talking about fasted training. And Scott, I don't know if you saw this study that came out about a former Giro podium placer. I don't know about the grammar of that. But it sounds like it was Geraint Thomas. So there was like this big research study that came out. And we know that Geraint Thomas, it's 2024. There's a large amount of research now that fasted training really doesn't do anything. And it probably just makes you more tired for when you're going out and trying to train. Maybe it makes you mentally tougher, I guess. Are you, in this like 150 grams of carb per hour era, do you see any point for fasted training in someone's training program?
I, definitely don't see it, especially like, if say this is a true study and, that happened. That's probably, the marginal gain on top of he's doing everything else right. He's sleeping, training to the best of his ability. Nutrition is as good as you can get it.
Only 2 weeks of going to the bar, getting drunk every night.
Yeah, but to the average cyclist, like there's so many more gains that you could make other than fasted training. It just, I don't know. It seems easier to do, I guess, because you just get up and ride and don't. That's why it appeals to people. But training harder or sleeping better, not drinking alcohol, having a good diet is much better, energy or spent than worrying about fasted training.
Yeah, it would be. I'd be curious if we could ever get Quick Steps performance director on. I just saw Remco has got a vlog series now about his comeback. His Zwift or trainer setup is quite interesting. He just like takes it outside of his apartment, sets it up on some rocks, puts his laptop on a box, and he's like on a busy road. It's pretty funny. But he had a video the other day and he's like, I'm doing 3 training sessions today. I'm going to do my first session's on the turbo. It's going to be like pretty easy. It's just like a light fasted effort. He gets on his trainer and then he does threshold efforts for like an hour. And he's trying to get his body temperature up to like 105 degrees for some sustained period of time because heat adaptation, going back to Dan Bigham, like that's a big one now. Everybody's wearing their painter suits on the trainer.
Is this though why, Andrew, is this why we're seeing people like unable to deal with any amount of cold weather, like physically falling apart?
That's, what? Maybe that's the case. I mean, I also have to wonder, of course, these are people with extremely low body fats. They're going to start to shiver much faster than I would. But Yeah, I don't know, Scott. What are you seeing with the heat adaptation training? That seems to be catching on right now as well.
Yeah, I think if you have one of those paint suits, it's required that you take a photo of yourself doing it and post it on the internet. Because that's all you see. I don't know if anybody's ever used that without posting that.
Well, couldn't they also just move to Maryland and train in the outside?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually been pretty cold here, and it could be hot in West Virginia. So I've been doing a little bit of heat training, just in case it's a hot day for the Nationals. But yeah, I have also been worried about the cold part because when hunting season comes around, I don't want to be freezing my ass off in the deer stand. So I don't know if that, if you are heat adapted, if it affects your how cold you get, but.
And what are you doing to do heat adaptation? Are you wearing extra layers? Like, do you have a painter suit? Would you like to share it with us?
I don't have a painter suit. I do a mix of kind of going in the sauna after the ride, or if I do like not a super intense ride, I'll wear not like a that needs to be high quality. I'll wear like a bunch of like a GABA or a bunch of clothes out on the road training just to get the body temperature up.
Spencer, are you seeing that in Boulder? Are people in paint suits out on the road now?
People are definitely in paint suits. I know a listener of this, Aisha Pratt-Lear, is paint suiting it up in her living room when she's on the trainer. But it's funny you say that, Scott. I remember when I first moved to Boulder in 2013, there'd be a lot of pros training here. That was the glory days of do you guys remember when Visma was just called Blanco? Because the sponsor was like, we'd prefer it if you don't advertise our name. And they would all be like so bundled up when it was, let's say, 70 degrees out, and they have like tons of thermal clothing on. And I was like, what the heck's going on? Why is everyone doing this? And someone was like, oh, it's this new science, heat adaptation, where you ride around with all your clothes on and it helps. So I have seen it, Andrew. And I remember Sean Quinn was here like middle of the summer last year thinking that it was hotter than California. So it was a good place to get heat adapted. But I guess it is a problem, especially if you're trying to get altitude training, but also be heat adapted. That is a bit of a tricky puzzle to solve. Scott, are you running at all? I was telling Andrew, I'm shocked at like some of these pro cyclists I follow on Instagram, like how much time they spend running and like why exactly they would do that.
No, I did the turkey trot on Thanksgiving. About it, like 44th place, so it's not bad. But
not bad at all.
Yeah. No, I do a bit in the off season, but keeping like, no, I don't hear of any of my teammates or anything like that running either during the season. So I don't know if that's one of the, the paint suit thing where you just post about it on Instagram, but it doesn't actually happen.
Take your dog out away and you're just like chasing after your dog. And then you're like, yeah, I was out running. I mean, the king of the jog, the mid Grand Tour jog, Primož Roglič, and Andrew and I, remember we dug into that, and maybe some people were staying in the same hotel as him and said they did not see him running in the morning. So who knows if that's true? But Primož is apparently running during Grand Tours, which seems crazy to me. I don't fully understand that.
Yeah, I could see it being some kind of inside job to get the other guy, start running and then fuck their training up. But
he also claimed he won the Giro time trial in 2016, 40K long, and he claimed that that's the longest he had ever ridden on a time trial bike.
Wow.
Was at the race, which I don't know. Sometimes Primož says stuff and it's hard to tell if it's a joke or not.
Yeah. Who knows? I will say I took a photo on my TV the other day that I'm now looking at, and the Bora team was warming up on trainers before a stage at the Giro, which that's pretty typical. The thing that struck me as a bit off is they had their helmets and sunglasses on. I don't really know what's going on when I see that happening.
Is this before a TT or a regular stage?
No. It's just a regular stage, but I mean, pretty low probability of a fall in that area.
I wonder if it's so close to the start that they're like jumping off that and then
it was real
sprinting to the start.
was real casual. Their DS was getting interviewed in the foreground, and they're all just sitting there in their helmets. One of them was drinking a Red Bull on his bike, so I guess they used their sponsor correct. They were using the product, but I don't know. Scott, do you ever wear your helmet when you're warming up on the trainer?
I don't wear off on the trainer or ride the trainer at all, so no. But yeah, if there's an option to warm up on the road, I just go. Talk about overheating. I mean, riding the trainer is not, just overheat before a time trial. I don't think that's the best idea either. But yeah, I just try to ride on the road. Obviously, probably at the Giro, that's not practical because there's not, there's going to be so many people around. But the races we do where there's no fans,
okay.
Interesting. So let's talk about the rest of your season. You have national championships coming up this coming weekend in West Virginia. Everyone knows Charleston, West Virginia. That's the cradle of American cycling culture right there. And it's close to everything. I have like a fascination with national championships because you're there as a team, I guess, but you want to win a national championship and you guys might outnumber. It's also weird they do it during the Giro, so like a lot of good riders won't be there, but you might outnumber, like, let's say Nielsen Palace is racing. Like, he's probably going to be by himself, or maybe he would have one teammate, but like Quinn Simmons will probably be by himself if he's at the race. So it kind of gives you this odd advantage over like the more established riders. Like, what's the team's plan going into that? Or is it just every person for themselves?
I mean, I think it'll be, I think everybody on Project Echelon, we're not selfish riders. So if there's an opportunity, where I think that, say, Tyler has a better chance of winning than I do, then I think everybody would go, all in for one guy, whoever has the best chance of winning. But yeah, we do have the numbers, and then there's also all, Brandon McNulty is going, Nielsen's going, maybe some other strong World Tour riders, where there's all these individuals. So hopefully we can play the team card and use that to our advantage. But yeah, we haven't really discussed the plan or anything this far in advance.
I mean, I should have researched this. I've heard a rumor that if you win the time trial, you go to the Olympics, but I didn't actually fact check that, so I'm sure.
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah. At least I think you go to the time trial and then you also do the road race if you win the time trial.
Yeah, I'm even a little fuzzy on that, but I think you maybe get like a max of 2 time trial spots, but they have to do another event, not necessarily the road race. So they could do like time trial and then like swimming, maybe. I don't know. I should check that rule. There's like an odd loophole there, but then after national championships, what's on tap for you?
Yeah, then we go straight to Tour of Norway, and then just go to Europe just for that one race. It's 4 stages, and then we come back and do a couple crits in DC, it's called the Armed Forces Cycling Classic, which is probably like the last hard crit in America. On Sunday, it's 100 laps of a 1K course and there's 5 turns per lap. So 500 corners. So that's like kind of the best crit. So we like to do that. Then we do Tour de Beauce, which is a 0.2 race in Canada. And then from there we go to the next race will be Tour of Portugal.
So you're back and forth a lot. That's
yeah.
Wow. I mean, in Tour of Norway, that's a serious race. Like Remco Evenepoel won that 2 years ago. Ben Tollett wins that last year. I mean, that's probably going to have a lot of good riders at it. Yeah. We once when Joe Martin stage race got canceled, we had to tried to find another race, and was able to secure an invite to Tour of Norway, because it's super hard to get as an American team to get invites to races in Europe that also kind of align with our schedule, our American race schedule. So when that got canceled, the team director, tried to find another race and was able to get an invite to Tour of Norway. Also, Andrew, what do you think about Crybaby Hill just got curb stomped there? Didn't make the list of the last hard crits in the U.S.
Yeah, but it's only 45 minutes long or an hour long or something.
Say more about that.
I think it's supposed to be like 80 minutes, but I think Scott's familiar with this weird math that happens at crits sometimes where like the races start to shrink somehow.
Yeah, when they get delayed, so they just cut the time.
Yeah.
Well,
by a certain time.
Yeah, I mean, even just looking at the past few weeks, like looking at Athens Twilight, it was very similar to the scenario you described at Redlands, Scott, where the race gets stopped with 10 laps to go. So basically everything's negated. I think that, there was a pretty significant break at Athens Twilight. And I think that they just said, you get 10 seconds, and then everyone just crowded up and started before the restart. So more or less these races turn into like a 10 lap race, it seems like.
Yeah, there's just not as, there's not any fatigue. So you can kind of just come off of training for 10 hours a week and still be okay to do an hour, 90-minute crit, where like when it gets kind of over that 2.5 hour range, then it actually becomes, you have to have a certain level of fitness in order to compete, which is, where we do so many races in Europe, long 100-mile races. It's easier for us to take advantage of a race that's 2+ hours than like a 60-minute 4-corner crit.
Yeah, that used to be a tradition in the U.S. So you'd have these 100. I think Super Week used to be. It was like 2 weeks of 100K crits every day. Yeah, it definitely does benefit. I mean, it's the same thing when you go from a regular long race to like a 6 or 7 hour monument or World Championship or Olympics. It's just like there's a reason that it's always the same people duking it out at the front of those.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, while we're talking about domestic racing, any thoughts on all of the UCI World Cup races, cyclocross World Cup races getting yanked out of the U.S.?
I mean, it's unfortunate, but it kind of, I don't know, it kind of makes sense, I guess, when you look at the results sheet. I know, like Eric Bruner had a good ride at one of the World Cups in 2022, I believe. He was like 4th. But other than that, it's usually like the top 15's all European riders. So it's like, why do they have to come to the U.S. to just race against themselves? But also, I don't know why they call it a World Cup when it's not around the world, right? It's kind of a bad name.
Yeah. Hey, fair point. I hadn't really thought about this until this very moment. We need to reach out. I'm wondering how Trek feels about this, because they do have the Trek Balois Lions, which is, that's one of the biggest teams in the sport. They had the Waterloo World Cup on the Trek factory grounds. I think they have a cyclocross course for employees, although maybe they have a gravel course for them now because everyone quit cyclocross and it's now all 50-year-old men racing gravel. So I don't know.
I don't know if this is public, but I think they're going through some rough times, right?
Oh yeah, it's public. Yeah, I think
public,
they did
like a 30%.
I think they did a 10% reduction in force, and then they're consolidating all their different model lines. If you go,
I mean, that could be part of the reason too. Like maybe they weren't willing to keep financially supporting these World Cups, and so the UCI said we're not going to do that anymore.
Yeah, but they do still have the cyclocross team. That's where we got Thibaut Nice wasn't just made in a lab.
Or was he? We don't know.
Interesting point. I don't know who his mom is. I just know who his dad is.
We definitely are seeing a recentering. Scott, Scott's panel at the UCI. Why is it called a World Cup? Why is it called the World Tour? It's not around the world. Just asking the tough questions. Truth to power.
It's true, yeah.
But yeah, it just does feel like cyclocross is recentering in the heartland, kind of going back from this global expansion. Same thing with road racing. Like it used to be all over the world. They were trying to make the World Tour truly global. That's going away. But you're keeping that tradition alive by traveling around the world to race every 2 weeks.
2 days in advance of the races.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, I mean,
it's so hard to do.
They want to call it a World Tour, but there's no World Tour race in North America or South America. There's one in Australia and one maybe in Asia.
It's like a
So
fake
it's such
one.
a European-centered sport, but yeah, called the World Tour.
I got to know, Scott, you're getting on a plane for one of these long haul flights. You're 2 days out from a race. What's your snack scene? Like, what's going on that plane with you? I bet you got a plan.
Well, being from Maryland, usually I go to Wawa on the way to the airport, pick up a couple subs, a couple hoagies, and then that way I don't have to pay, in the airport, all the inflated prices. And then, usually whatever the airline has to offer.
You don't just have like a Camelback bladder full of 3 liters of rice?
I haven't done that. Maybe I should dial it in a little bit more, but so far just kind of whatever I can find. Usually, and if you're going to Europe, usually like I went to Istanbul, so got to try a little, Turkish cuisine. So sometimes you run into something cool at some of these airports.
Nice.
Well, we'll let you. Are you guys going to be? Do you have any chance of getting into the Quebec races or no?
I don't. They're world tours, so it's like continental teams aren't even allowed.
That's
and
a
then
bummer.
I think you're only allowed one national team. Like we might be able to do it as a national team, but you're only allowed one national team per race. And obviously Canada will get that spot. So yeah, that is a bummer.
What about Worlds? Any chance we see you back at Road Worlds this year?
I don't think so. Unless I miraculously pull off a win this weekend. I mean, the competition's pretty stiff with the Americans these days. So there's definitely better riders than me that deserve to go.
Well, Andrew, with the rate of knee injuries that are happening, you might be going to that race.
Knee injuries,
I do have some experience with that. So yeah, that is a possibility.
Never know. Little tendonitis might be around the corner.
Do you think that's getting worse, Scott, or are we just hearing about it more often? Like riders getting taken out for big chunks. Like Nielsen Palace just missed months with like a non-contact knee injury.
Yeah, I don't know. I was wondering that. Like I have my shoe setup is so specific. And then I was thinking back in like, the 60s or something, how did they not? They were doing 300K stages. How did they not pick up a knee injury? And it's not like they
corn
had
cob cassettes too.
Yeah, all these, fancy shims in their shoes. And, I couldn't, if I change my insoles, I'll get, I'll have to get knee replacements. So I don't know. I guess the human body is just getting more fragile or something. I don't know.
This is going to go in your UCI panel presentation. The dangers of modern life on the human body. I'm at a loss too, because in the 90s, you look at these RPMs, guys are pushing like 55, 60 RPMs. And I felt like it was rare for someone to miss time with a non-contact knee injury. And now it's really common. Yeah,
maybe it's, I don't know, something to do with the pedals or something. But if anything, I would think the technology would be improving. So who knows? Maybe we're just hearing about it more often. And, back then if you got a knee injury, you were just done. Just fell off the face of the earth.
You'd sit at home for 6 months and you wouldn't have an Instagram to tell anybody about it.
Exactly, that is true. Yeah.
Yeah. What size of cranks are you running before we let you go?
I am on 170s. I don't know. I've been meaning to go, shorter cranks because that seems like that's in style, I guess. But every time I fill out one of the forms to get, what my bike size is, I just put the same number because I'm like, I don't know. I'll just put the same.
Oh, yeah.
And then like to switch
the sport did cranks for 50 years.
Yeah, but to switch cranks realistically, like if I want to switch on all my bikes, it's kind of a lot of cranksets to get. So it's like I just kind of put it off and don't. Yeah, just stick with the same 170s.
I mean, maybe everyone stopped listening at this point, so it's safe to share this thought. But so you shorten cranks, like you shorten them so you can spin faster, because as you shorten your cranks, you'll, I guess, put out less torque and increases your cadence, is apparently what they say. But so like Ineos had a 66 tooth front chainring, or 1x chainring in the time trial. So let's say if you have a 66 tooth chainring, 165 cranks. To push that massive of gear with those short of cranks, are you like actually increasing? Is there some sort of, because it can't just be free energy. Like I'm spinning out at 100 RPMs with the 66 tooth front crank and it's easy. Like there has to be, the energy has to be met somewhere. So is is it more intense torque at the top of the pedal stroke where you're not getting like greater leverage, like you were talking about, Andrew, with your 175s? Like as we shorten them, are we like creating a more intense contact point somewhere in the pedal stroke to then actually push that massive gear over?
Maybe in the knee area.
I kind of been wondering about this. Like these are big gears guys are running with really short cranks.
Yeah, 66 seems pretty big. I wonder if they had like an internal like hub gear that made it a smaller gear.
They did.
Okay.
But then Thomas, if you looked at Thomas, he was really struggling. Like he looked like, oh, this guy's gears broke. Like he was really struggling to get that gear up the climb. And I kind of wonder if they had a problem with his internal hub or something.
Ooh, interesting. TBD.
But yeah, just something that like, if you look at some of those Strava files, like when Remco attacks with 2 hours left in a race, he averages 99, 100 RPMs for that 2 hours. And that's on a big gear too. So I just kind of wonder if you shorten the cranks and you're spinning that high, it's not like you're spinning a small gear, you're spinning a massive gear. Like you have to be, resistance has to be meeting you somewhere. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Kevin Selker, you're a physicist. Tell me if I'm wrong, and you're probably still listening at this point. All right. Well, do you have any more? Do you have one last question? Or wait, who's going to win the Giro? What's your pick, Scott?
I mean, you want me to get like a
It doesn't have to
curveball out there?
No, it doesn't have to be a curveball. Well, who's going to win? And then
let's do it.
Your podium, I guess, can be your curveball.
I'll just say Martinez is going to win. Just so I don't say Pogačar. I don't even know who else there is. Geraint Thomas second.
And Taddy's been abducted.
Well, I'm thinking that he's not going to finish. That's why Martinez.
Okay.
That's the only way Martinez wins. So I can't put him on the podium. Give me some names. I can't even.
What about Ben O'Connor? I like.
Sure, third.
I just like him as a person because he seems kind of like a tough guy.
Yeah, he sounds like a third place guy.
That's a third place name. Actually, this kind of, I'm looking at this. This is an interesting betting strategy, Scott, because I'm just looking, if you want to bet outright Giro d'Italia right now, Tadej Pogačar is minus 1,250. That's absurd. I've never seen someone be that heavy of a favorite. Danny Martinez is plus 1,800. So if you bet $100, you win 1,800 in profit. But you start to wonder about the perceived probability of this. That actually probably financially makes sense because there's a greater chance of Pogačar crashing out than there is the perceived probability differential of Martinez winning. So Martinez is probably actually the smart money bet.
Yeah, maybe this will be the beginning of my gambling career.
He's a savant.
Yeah, this is a whole other can of worms. I mean, like, let's say that climate protesters take out our current top five. I'm going with, if we have to like go down the chain here, I'm going to go with Einar Rubio as the improbable winner of the Giro if that happens. If not, I'm still going with Geraint Thomas. And we probably don't have time to get into this. I need to look at the UCI rulebook. But Spencer, can riders, team owners, managers, can they gamble on this sport or not? Is it illegal?
It's a great question. That is a great question. I will not expand on why I was worried about this, but I don't think there is actually, which is odd, which is strange.
Okay, because I think. Sorry, we were kind of talking about this privately, but like you see certain people from certain teams and certain places, broadcasts, so forth. Yeah, just you start to wonder about these things.
I guess that the problem with any sort of naughtiness is, like, let's say I am a consultant for Lotto Destiny and I have inside information and then I'm betting on it. For it to exceed any type of compensation that I'm receiving from the team, it would be so obvious because I'd probably be betting on odd stuff and they would notice it. I mean, this is what happened with Jonte Murray in the NBA where he was like betting on himself to suck. But he was an inconsequential player. So they were like, yeah, someone just bet like 20K on you to not score any points. And then you pretended to have an eye injury and that you couldn't go into the game. So it was obvious what was going on. That would probably happen. But my pick to win is Pogačar. And then I actually think Antonio Tiberi, now that you guys have me think about wild cards, he lost 2 minutes because of a flat tire on stage 2. He's only 4.5 minutes down, which means that he's potentially as strong as Martinez.
There you have it.
And then I hate to break I hate to even think this, Andrew, but I did. I don't know if you guys watched the end of stage 8. It was like a really formulaic uphill finish. I think if you're really just trying to look at this scientifically, you'd say that was a laboratory basically about who's fit and who isn't. And you'd say Pogačar won, Martinez was second, O'Connor was third. They were all in the same time. And then Geraint Thomas could not finish with them and fell off a little bit and lost 2 seconds, plus the time bonuses. Thomas, to me, he was great through the first week. He does look to me like maybe he's not on the same level as Martinez and O'Connor, if I had to be completely honest.
How dare you? We know that week 3 is where he shines due to the fasted training he's put in.
It's true. Didn't he lose the Giro last year in the 3rd week?
But that's where his fasted training kicks in. So let's see what the ground has to say.
Let's see what go 4 weeks. See, he's laughing at everybody. All right, Scott, we'll let you go. You got to start banking sleep now for your trip to Norway. So we'll let you get out there. Good luck at Nationals this weekend.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us.
Something amazing is happening in meteorology. Climate researchers are successfully processing a data storm. That's because CDW transformed their laptop devices and infrastructure to pre-configured Lenovo ThinkPads and powerful edge-to-cloud solutions. By delivering faster insights to run more accurate forecast models, it's almost like they're controlling the weather themselves. Lenovo and CDW. Make amazing happen. Find out more at cdw.com/Lenovo Client.